think most people knew you were struggling most of the time.
Yeah, but anyhow, forgive me for bringing a name up and just strike that from the record. But that some people that, you know, it was out there for some people thought, oh, Pete got a lot of money. Yeah, right. You know, well, I never saw a lot of it. Later, I had to jump through a lot of hoops. I got the liquor license back.
Oh, okay.
And then I sold it, and it cost me. You know, you could sell liquor license maybe at that. I think I sold it for 65 and had to pay out 26 or 7, 20 to. Those guys never paid any sales tax. The guys that I sold it to, so I had to pay the state $20,000 of some 28,000. The lawyer negotiated it down. Of course, I had to pay the lawyer $5,000. You know, so anyhow, but I got some of it back.
Now, did you ever, after either those two guys bought it, did you ever go back in and see what was happening after you sold it? Did you ever kind of stop in and...
Yeah.
What'd you think? How did it make you feel?
Oh, well, I just didn't know what to think, you know, and I would get these reports from other people, really conflicting reports about what was happening down there. There was the guy, and by the way, I didn't know if you were going to ask about finances and stuff. I refinanced the place twice, and I looked this up, and I could tell you when it was. But the second time, it was private. It was a guy by the name of Francesco Criniti. Do you know Francesco? Nice guy. And he would give me these reports, you know, and one of the later ones was, you know, they put a pole on the bandstand, and I'm like, oh.
Huh.
You know, apparently there were 3 of them that bought the place, and the one guy had some money. Deep, his name was Deep Chopandra or something like that, and they kind of threw him out, or he left the partnership after just 3 or 6 months, and I think that was from a financial standpoint on their behalf. That was probably not a good thing, because then they were skating on thin ice from then on financially, and there was no deep pockets to bail them out, you know. So
was it? I mean, did they try to continue it as?
Yes, they did, and they had Sid and Sid and those guys there for a while. I had all kinds of reports, varying reports.
They were mean to a lot of people.
Apparently, yeah. I didn't get all of these reports from everybody. I got some, you know. I don't know. You know, I would like to actually know more than what I do know, but
I know one person, Jeff Lee Johnson, who was very close to. He was thrown out of the place because he wasn't playing the music that they wanted him to play. They were trying to program some sort of a, you know, little bit of jazz, but kind of like house music kind of stuff.
oh,
Really weird.
okay.
And Jeff says, "What are you telling me what to play?" And they threw him out the front door in the street.
You mean physically almost?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Oh.
So yeah. That's
No, and they were. I heard that they were kind of acting like big shots and acting cocky and stuff. I heard that. I heard that side of the story, and you know, having wild parties upstairs. And I heard that the one guy was a nice guy. I forget what his name was. I heard that he fell down the steps and damn near killed himself one time. So.
all right. Now, I guess, do you have any other questions?
Well, I mean, we didn't talk too much about all the different people that played there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You know, like you said that you would bring people down from New York,
Mm-hmm.
and then we talked about the house, you know, the rhythm sections, the house bands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, were there other house bands besides Shirley? And
Oh yeah.
Let's.
Well, you know, just to start off with Shirley and that nucleus. She was only there 3 months and had to honor a contract at Adams Mark. So she went back to Adams Mark in January of '88 for a 3-month contract. So remember Howard Whaley?
Yeah.
Howard Whaley came in, and then of course Sam Dockery came in. So they were there as side men and all kinds of other. I mean, who's the left-handed drummer that used to play with Tony Williams? He was in there a lot.
He's dead now.
Nicest guy.
Yeah, they're very sweet.
Nice cat. I have a hand drawing of the rhythm of me with Ori Kane, Harper, and him on drums back there. I'll yank it out. But no, there was a lot of different rhythm sections. Then Shirley came back in March, actually a month early. But it was always there was always different people. Shirley would get, actually Leon Jordan lives up here in Berks County now, and he would come in to sub. Mike Boone, we were just talking about this. Mike Boone didn't come in to play that, maybe a little bit later, at 90. But Sid would come in. Sid started coming in fairly early. And when Shirley started to get busy with Shaney, then Freed Barron had sort of arrived, and boy, the way he played, I'm like, wow, he was so into Bud Powell, especially then, and he became like a kind of a house pianist too, for a while.
Now, was there any special night do you remember that sticks in your mind when you think about one of your favorite nights?
There's a lot of them, and it's picking and choosing which ones, but there was one night, maybe it was around the time, one of the early Pico Energy Jazz Festivals, and we were there, it was probably June, and we were there with Shirley, Mickey, whoever was the house rhythm section. Can't remember if there was a guest artist and who it was, but all the cats that were down at Penn's Landing or wherever, Sonny Rollins' whole band came in, and Mark Soskin was Sonny Rollins' piano player. I don't know if Sonny Rollins didn't come in, but Bob Cranshaw might have come in, the bass player. Mark Soskin, the piano player. And then Bobby Durham came in with Ernie Andrews, the vocalist, I think Ernie Andrews is originally from Philly, but he must have gone to Los Angeles at a pretty early age. So Ernie Andrews got up on the bandstand and sang, and I'll never forget it because I was standing right next to him playing, and Ernie Andrews kind of rocking back and forth with holding the mic like this, and the projection of his voice. I mean, he was like a Kansas City blues shouter, the way I think of it. And I was just, it was like somebody hooked electrodes up to my body, standing next to this man, the way he projected those notes and words. It's like, wow, this is the real McCoy, this is it, That was a night I remember. And there were a lot of others, just nights, One night, Tim Warfield and Terell Stafford came in to sit in. It was on a Wednesday night. There's almost nobody in the club. And I can remember 2 tables over on the right, and Ray King and his wife, who was the wine editor for the Inquirer, they were just came in. They probably didn't even buy a drink. They were standing over by the beer cooler in that little office, that little area outside the office. And Bobby Durham was playing drums, and we played Blues March. And in between every chorus, we played the head, and then somebody took a solo, and then Bobby took a drum solo, and ended it with a roll-off. And then Tim played a solo, and Bobby Durham. And each one, he raised the level like this. And I looked over at those people, and they were standing there with all four of them were with their, oh my God. They were their mouths were just agape. It was like, yeah, it's welcome to Ortliebs.
Now, we got to talk about you playing, because,
Yeah.
you wouldn't sit it, or how you would
Yeah, I
call
would
it.
play
You
with
would
the.
play a
You
couple of
play with
tunes.
everybody in there, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, want to talk about your
Well,
club owner, you sort of had the right to go up and
I had the right to do it. I mitigated it somewhat. And oftentimes I felt like, I think I knew what my place was and where I belonged in the pecking order of things. But I think some people sometimes thought that I thought that I deserved to be on the bandstand, and I took a little, there was Bootsy Barnes and and Charles Bowen and Larry McKenna and Jimmy Oliver, you know, all these great players, and there I am, you know, so I suffered a little bit by comparison. But I was very lucky, you know, to have people like, and some of them were wonderful to me, you know, welcoming, wonderful, encouraging, like Cecil Payne was just a sweetheart. And Bootsy and Larry, you know, they were just encouraging, and they would...
So, explain, would you, like at the beginning of a set, you would play a couple of tunes and then bow out? Like,
different. Well,
how would that work?
on the Tuesday night, I would host a jam session, and I would pretty much be up there most of the time, getting people up, rotating people in and out. But on the weekends, if it was a guest artist with the house band, like any house, Shirley, Mickey Arthur, Sam Dockery, you know, Sid Simmons, I would maybe open the set, play 2 tunes, and then get the guest artist up and let him play the rest of the set. Maybe every once in a while do 1 tune at the end to get off with, but most of the time let them finish the set. Other times with bands that would come in, Orrin Evans would bring his own. I wouldn't play with some bands that would come in. Who would be another good example of that? Arpeggio Jazz Ensemble. They had their own self-contained thing. I can't even think of who some of the other ones would be. Bands that were self-contained units, but not with our house band. I would let them, you know, you got it. I'd sit in the office there and listen to what was going on, or come out, you know, hang out.
And some of the Philly artists specifically,
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned a lot of them, like Jimmy Oliver.
Jimmy Oliver, Cecil Payne.
And these were regulars there.
Evelyn Sims.
Evelyn Sims, Nina Bundy, vocalist George Towns, Nina Bundy, Evelyn Sims, some others, you know, on occasion. Sax players, Tony Williams was there as a guest artist. Who's the guy? I had Ernie Banks. Any of you know about Ernie Banks? I had him come in from the West Coast. He was a singer. He was cool guy. I have his picture right here. Who's the alto sax player that was with, I can't think of his name right now. Was with Basie, played alto and flute.
That's right.
My memory's going too.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, I was thinking of it this morning. I mean, right on the tip of my, I mean, I had it this morning. But anyhow, a lot of, in answer to your question, a lot of Philly jazz artists. And then Suzanne had asked, well, how did, and it's evolving over time, how did I contract with the people that I got, you know? And it's a mixture, you know, like, I had met Al Gray actually up in Reading when he came in the Melody Lounge. I had met him at Charlie Richards' music store, and I was too young to go into the Melody, but I knew him, I knew who he was from way back then. But anyhow, it was a mixture of things. People would tell me, you know, call so-and-so. Sam Newsom, for example, came into the club after appearing at that Painted Bride, was it? Painted Bride, the arts place, he was in town with Terrence Blanchard. So he came in and sat in and gave me his card, and, you know, so I hired him. And Tim Warfield came into the jam session, and I heard him, and was like, okay, you know, and then I hired him, got him to play with Shirley Scott. So it was a mixture of that. And then after a while, people send you press kits. I remember looking at Randy Johnson, and I could tell that I could just look at his picture. Yeah, he's got, as I called him and listened to his record and called him. But there's a lot of people I didn't hire that I probably should have, you know, too, you know.
well, I always thought you had great people in there.
And how about some of the, you know, Philly greats that left but would come back, like Jimmy Heath or, you know,
Yeah.
Heath. I mean, did they ever come in and play, or
Did they come in and play?
Yeah.
Great question.
Even Dizzy. I mean, he was still around, right?
Yeah, Dizzy was around when I first had the club, and Mickey was very tight with Dizzy. He had been with him for 10 years. He never came in.
Okay.
I remember one night, Mickey got somebody called in and asked for Mickey, and the phone cord was stretched from where I had the phone on the wall over to Mickey, and Mickey was talking to Bill Cosby for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes on. But no, Jimmy Heath never came in, but a lot of other guys did.
He was in New York by then.
He was in
Yeah,
New York.
I meant, but did they come back?
But they would,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
they would come back, and I had Charles McPherson there for a weekend, and that was marvelous. He was, but that was under the auspices of Bim Strasberg, who knew him from San Diego, and he came down from New York. Trumpet player Valerie Panomaroff came in quite a few times.
And how about young guy like Joey DeFrancesco? Did he
Joey DeFrancesco came in a number.
Christian McBride? I mean, did they all?
Who?
Christian McBride?
No, well, he was probably in there. I remember one night I was not in there. Mike Boone telling me that I don't know, it was a Wednesday night with Bootsy was in there and Mike was hanging, but Milt Hinton was in.
Really?
Oh, all kinds of. I mean, it was like any given night. You know, one night I was standing outside. This is fairly early in the ball game, and out this car pulls up, and out pops at Branford Marsalis, jumps out, and he said on the way into the club, I always couldn't. I was telling my dad last night I couldn't wait to come down and see Shirley Scott. You know.
Really?
Yeah. And he got up and he sat in and played with us. Yeah. So
Is there anything you want to add to the interview, Pete, before we go over this?
let's see. I saw so many other questions. You had asked about how did we do financially in the place,
Yeah.
and what was it like, and I do remember after I moved back home here thinking about all this, and I guess we probably broke even, or a little better than broke even, maybe 3 years out of 20. Yeah, it was. And I refinanced the place, and this I just looked up this morning. I did a refi in '97. After I was there 10 years. A couple years before that, I sold 5 saxophones to keep going. In about 95, I had a bass sax and a straight alto that I bought from this guy Cohen in New York, and I sold them, and sold all that stuff. But I refinanced in '97, and then I refinanced with Francesco, and that was the first one was $65,000. The second one was like $170 or something like that, and so of course I had to pay all that off when I sold the place,
Yeah.
So I knew you asked that question, so I wanted to answer it. I don't know if it's nothing else I want to add really, except that I think you asked, did I know? Well, you sort of touched on this. Did I know what the place constituted for people? And I kind of did, but I don't think it sunk in more gradually over the years. I mean, when I looked around and saw those people, and a guy used to come in and, do you remember Mellow King? Do you remember who Mellow King was, a tap dancer?
Oh, yeah.
He used to come in and tap dance when Shirley was there, and I'm like, well, this must be like to draw that interest of those people. I mean, that's kind of cool, So I did and I didn't,
I mean, it's definitely in the pantheon of Philly jazz clubs. It's up there with all the great ones.
For the 80s.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, of its period, it was the place. I mean, in Center City, Zanzibar or Chris's, you get all dressed up. But Ortliebs was just like this.
Yeah, it was down home and comfortable,
Yeah,
and everybody
it
was
just-
everybody was comfortable when they came in there. Made to feel nobody was uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like you said, the layout of the room.
Yeah, it did lend itself to that. That's true also. Yeah.
Well,
So-
shall we wrap it up then, or?
Yeah, we're going to thank you so much.
Oh well, thanks for doing it, and I hope I answered your questions honestly.
You were
Certainly
great. You were
did.
great.
You're
interview.
wonderful.
Yeah.